Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the Curious Dude, and we are back with a brand new series called Zero to Hero in Python. It will be a series of videos where I'll take you all through the basics of Python and all the cool things that we can do once we complete the basics. So let's jump right into it. First, we'll have the course overview. So in this series of lectures, we'll go through Python syntax, commands, variables, data types, numbers, strings, booleans, operators, lists, tuple sets, dictionaries, if else, while loop, for loop, functions, lambda, arrays, inheritance, and much more things about it. Then we'll move on to Selenium with Python and automate some boring stuff that and may build some bots, some desktop applications in further videos. So make sure to push that notification icon to get the latest updates. Now let's jump right into it. Firstly, I'll give you guys a 2-minute crash course into utilizing your command prompt while running a Python script, which is very important while we go through it because one of the very handy ways to operate a code in Python is by going to a particular place where you have stored your Python code and then running that Python script. So what we'll be going through is how to find your current directory. That is the directory in which you are currently there, listing all the files in those directories, that is all the folders, subfolders, files that are present in that directory currently. How to change your directory, that is going from one position or one memory place to another memory place in your PC or laptops. And the last thing that we would see is how to clear the screen. So that is all we'll be going through, since it would be a bit necessary while going for Python course. So just to open the command prompt, go to the start menu, just type cmd or command in whole, and the first search result that you will get is of your command prompt. Just click on it and open the command prompt. Currently you see that we are in the folder C users and admin. Sometimes it might not be the case, so sometimes when you are running some complex Python codes, you might be in a virtual directory or a virtual environment, so that position might be different. So to confirm that in which directory you are currently stored, you just have to type in the command cd and then press enter. So it will give you the current location of your directory, that is C users and admin. Then to report back all the contents of that directory, what and all is stored in that directory, you just have to write a command called dir. So dir gives you the current contents of the directory. Just type in dir and press on enter. You'll see that it has given me a list of all the folders and files that are present inside my current directory, that is C users and admin. Now let's say I have to change my directory to one of the folders that is present inside admin. Let's say that I have to move into downloads or desktop. So what I'll do is I'll type cd space desk. Now you have to notice that once you type this, you can just simply go ahead and click on tab. What tab will do is it will autofill nearest matching word. So let's say if I have desktop present in all the files, it will just autofill it to desktop. Now after typing cd space desktop, just press enter. Now we see that we are in the directory which has been changed to C users admin desktop. Now if I want to see whatever is present on desktop, I just go on and type dir, and now we have a list of things that are present on my desktop. Now let's say if I have to clear all these commands, all these things that I have here. So just to do that, just to clear everything that is present on the command prompt, I'll just type the command cls and press enter. CLS means clear screen. It's as simple as that, and my command prompt has been cleared off. So these are just all the commands that we would be utilizing while running Python script. At a later stage, where we create complex Python scripts, long codes using Python, where we have to run it through the command prompt. Now, jumping back to Python, with starting as to why do we prefer Python over other languages. So there are a lot of reasons why we utilize Python, even though Python is one of the slowest languages that we can arguably have. So it's slow than C, C++, but yet Python is utilized a lot throughout the industry. So one of majority of the reasons are it's very easy. Developers or normal students or people can learn and grasp it as quickly as compared to other languages. A normal Python code typically involves less code when compared to Java or any other programming languages. Syntax is very easy to read. As I told you guys earlier, right now it is being utilized by every major technology company. Uh, all the new technologies based on machine learning, artificial intelligence, uh, big data, data science, everything has a bit of Python involved in all the processes that there are. Plus, there are huge amount of additional open resource libraries that are available to download. Uh, that's all the basic reasons why we are going to learn Python. So right now, Python is a very hot commodity in the programming world. So now let's jump right into it. And to start learning, we will have to install Python first on our systems. So to install the Python on our systems, basically there are a lot of ways we can go by. We can go to python.org and directly download a edition of latest edition of Python from their website. But what we are going to do is that we are going to install it using Anaconda distribution. So this distribution includes Python as well as any many other useful libraries, including Jupyter and Spider notebooks that we are going to utilize throughout our programming and throughout our videos. Anaconda can easily be installed onto any major operating system that is available, such as Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. For these tutorials, we are going to utilize the Windows based Anaconda individual editions. So, to download this, we need to go to www.anaconda.com/distribution. Once we open that page, we have something like this on the home page. We just need to click on download, and it will take us to the Anaconda 2020.02 version for Windows installer. From time to time, they keep on updating these distributions, so we might see it in a different way or a different version, but basic outlook of this web page would be the same. What we need to do is we need to install the 64-bit graphical installer, which is for around 466 MB. We just click on it and download the file. Once we have the file downloaded, we'll now double click on the Anaconda installer on the system, and we have Anaconda 3, which is the 2020.02 version. So you can see I have two versions of Anaconda, but we are going to utilize the latest version of Anaconda. So it's just a basic simple installation process. I agree. Next, it's just for just me. If you want to install it for all the other users that are available on your systems, you can go ahead and click on all. Next, register Anaconda 3 as my default Python 3.7 and add Anaconda to my path environment variables. So this is a very important step in the installation, where we need to add Anaconda to path environment variables. This is because later in the series we are going to call Conda through our command prompt to run Python files. So we'll add Anaconda to my path Generally it is not recommended, but for us we can do that. It is not recommended because it may cause problems, uh, and might interfere with other softwares if at all we have something similar named on our systems. So we'll go ahead and install and wait for the installation to be completed. So now when the installation is completed, we'll just click on next, and we'll again click on next, and we'll launch the Anaconda. So basically this will open a couple of websites which will get you to Anaconda tutorials and distribution success, and a success message saying that okay, your Anaconda has been installed on your system, and basically thank you for installing Anaconda. So this is where basically you can get a quick start guide on how to utilize Anaconda and basic things. So to get in detail into that, you can guys can go ahead and open this. Now we are going to utilize Anaconda Navigator. We are just going to click on the start menu and click on the Anaconda Navigator. We'll see that for the first time when you start it, it'll open a command prompt and run a file called conda.exe, and in some time it will open up a pop-up window where we'll have to select which editor we are going to utilize for this. Now there are a lot of different methods using which we can basically develop Python code. So the various development environments with utilizing which we can develop a Python code, and by environment I mean places where we will write our Python code. So these places are basically text editors, full IDEs. IDE stands for an integrated development environment, and thirdly it's a notebook environment. So talking about text editors include something as Notepad or Notepad plus plus, where you just get a plain text file and you can write your code onto it and then go ahead and save it as a .py file. The only drawback while utilizing a text editor would be that they are not specifically built for Python. So there are certain inbuilt features which are utilized in Python. Those features won't be available while you are editing a code with a text editor. While you are writing with text editor, some of the most popular text editors for Python being Atom or Sublime Text. So Atom is by GitHub, and it's free, and it is a free text editor, while Sublime Text being an editor which is a lifetime free license, and if you like the product you can go ahead and purchase the license. Now coming to notebook environment. Environments are basically nothing but environments that we are going to utilize for learning purpose, uh, and basically we can see input and output next to each other in a very beautiful and compact format. So for this we as we can see on our screens, we are going to utilize something called as Jupyter Notebook. There are, you can see a lot of options that are available as cmd.exe prompt, so it will open a command prompt. Other is the Jupyter Lab, the Notebook, Jupyter Notebook, PowerShell prompt, Qt console, Spider, Gluewiz, Orange. So the first four that I told you guys comes free with it. Qt console and Spider are new additions to it. PyQt basically is used for graphical call types and syntax highlighting. Spider is used for like powerful code builders, very big codes. Mostly built using Spider, and it's very helpful for people that have an experience in MATLAB. The third that we talked about are full integrated development environments. So for full integrated development environments, these are mainly that are being used in big corporation and big IT companies, and these are specifically designed for Python. So these have huge amount of inbuilt libraries, and and have 24/7 support available for these editors. So by integrated development environment, we mean that they have a team of people specifically dedicated in maintaining all the libraries and all the things that are available to us in that integrated development environment. So one of the most popular integrated development environment would be PyCharm and Spider. Spider is, as you can see, is also a part of Anaconda Navigator or Anaconda distribution system. For starting with our programming journey for with Python, we are going to utilize Jupyter Notebook. So to launch a Jupyter Notebook, we see that we have something called as Jupyter Notebook, and we have a launch button there. So we click on launch, and then it will go ahead and open a localhost format in a browser. Although it is utilizing a browser, it is a local distribution system. That is, it does not require any uh, internet connection specifically to launch. Also, while utilizing things like text editor or specific uh, IDEs, the code have a format called as .py. But while using Jupyter notebooks or notebook environment, we have a specific format called i.pynb or .ipynb, which is a specialized notebook format. In this, we have a different format because it has a lot of different functions which are in addition to the normal text editors or IDEs, and these are mostly handled in data science and machine learning due to its instant data visualizations. So these can be basically used for a lot of different purposes. So now let's have an example of how we can run a code using a text editor. So for running a code through a text editor, I have something called as a simple notepad. I won't be utilizing any fancy versions of text editor like Sublime Text or Atom. I generally code on Notepad, or what I would prefer is Spider or Jupyter. If there is any data science application or machine learning application, I would run it using Jupyter. If it's a simple application or Python script, I would utilize Spider Notebook. So uh, let's see how to run a very simple uh, code through our text editor. And remember, for this we have to utilize our command prompt skills. So we'll just write a simple one line code where we will go ahead and print hello world in this. That's a very cliched statement. That's the first statement for every program that you have been writing. We'll just go ahead, click on file, and remember this, guys, this is one of the most important steps where we have to save it as a Python file and not as a text file. So we'll save it in our desktops uh, with the mention as first program .py, and we'll save it on our desktop. Now to run this first program, what I'll do is I'll open up the command prompt, and then as you guys know, we have stored our first program on the desktop. Now I'll navigate to desktop, and then from there we'll type it as Python. Remember, guys, we added Python as an environment variable, so we can now use Python as a system code. That is, anything written after Python will run as a Python code. One more way to check whether Python has been correctly installed on a system is just to open the command prompt and just type Python on the system, and the latest version of Python that is installed on your system would be shown it as here. The Python interpreter is a Conda environment, but the environment has not been activated. So this is what you get when you have correctly installed the Python. Now to exit from it, just write exit exit along with parentheses and click enter. So you will exit the Python environment. Now coming back to the first program, now to run that Python code that we wrote, just type out Python space first program dot py. Now if I go ahead and run this, it says as can't open file as first program. Oh sorry, I wrote this wrong spelling, so I basically gave it as first program, my bad. But let's just run it and you see the output as hello world. So this is one way to run a Python code. Now as I told you guys, to run a Python editor in CMD line by line, we can also do something like this. We have Python code here. What we can do is we can just print it out here only. Print parentheses, double quotes. Now we have hello world, and then just press enter. You have the result as hello world. Now we exit this. So this is basically how you run a code utilizing Python on a command prompt, uh, only utilizing a command prompt, and also utilizing command prompt with Python code when you have actually saved your Python file through a notepad or a notebook or a word editor. So now we come back to a Jupyter notebook, and now we will go through on how this Jupyter notebook actually works. So you see, when I open the Jupyter notebook, it already gives you what is on your system. It's a desktop, contacts, documents, all those files. What we would need is a new Jupyter notebook. So we will go ahead and click on new, and then under notebook it would be Python 3. Then we'll click on Python 3. So it will open up a new Jupyter notebook on my system. Remember guys, although this is opening up on a browser, this does not require any internet connection. So on the topmost corner you see something as untitled. So we can go ahead and rename our Python notebook to anything we like, and what we would see is we can do rename. If we go to the navigator, we can see that we have created a new .ipynb seconds ago, which is named 0 to hero. This is the same name that I gave to my Jupyter notebook here. So we have to remember that this creates a .ipynb file. What this means is so that such that if you guys have a file that is like this, you can double click it and it will open the file. This does not have anything like that. If you double click on .ipynb file, it won't basically open anything. It will ask you to open it through a file, and you won't find Jupyter in your set of programs that is installed on your PC. So that is why it's a bit different. We have to open it through a Jupyter notebook like we have done this. So now we'll see the same code, how to run it through a Jupyter notebook. We just go ahead, click on print, again this, type out print parentheses hello world exclamation mark, and click on run. We'll get our result as hello world. So we utilize this Jupyter notebook, so you can see that they have our input and output side by side, so that we have ease in seeing what we are actually doing. So if you don't want to click on run again and again, you can just go ahead and click on shift plus enter to run the code. If you just click on enter, it will just go to the new line and it won't print out the command. So as you can see in the Jupyter notebook, what we have is that as soon as I write a code, the keywords that I'm utilizing show a different color, and the things that I'm writing inside double quotes are showing a different color. So this is why we utilize these things instead of a notebook, so that it helps us in differentiating the format and the syntax of the codes that we are utilizing. Again, we press shift plus enter and now we have this. The other thing is that we can utilize this not as a code line but also as a markdown or a comment section. So as a comment section in the Python notebook, we can have it, we can name it as markdown. So once I click on the drop down and change it to markdown, you see the line number that we had here disappears. So this is nothing but a comment line. So whatever I save in this appears as a comment on the notebook and is not taken into account of the code. So let's say if I have a very big code and I need to remember what things are present in this line of the code and what I am writing and representing, so I can just go ahead and type it out here and save it. Also, you guys see that this basically auto saves every time you run. So if I run this line, see, it just gives it as this is just a comment line. So this is what a markdown cell is. It just converts it into a comment line. So you can go ahead and write n number of lines in this markdown line and it won't be an input line or a command line. It would just convert all these things into a comment. This basically helps in remembering what part of code is being utilized currently. So now let's moving on to the next part of our Python tutorial, zero to hero. Now we would be now in this section we will cover the Python objects and data structure basics. So firstly we would take a look at the key data types in Python. They're your basic building blocks when constructing larger pieces of code, and then we will have lectures going into a little more detailed about each one of them, so you don't have to worry about hogging everything here. This is just a quick overview and there's going to be an explanation regarding each one of these. So we have data types of Python currently here. Uh, in total, there are about 8 data types that we are going to look into these tutorials in a flash. So first we have integers or int. These are whole numbers, that is numbers without any decimals. So which means it can be 3, 300, 200, 12, all those numbers. Then we have floating point. These are the numbers which are having decimal points, that is 2.3, 4.6, 100.0. One thing is to be noticed here that in Python we do not have a double data type, which is the case that we have in a lot of other programming languages such as Java. We do not have a double, we just have one data type, that is floating point, that relates us to a decimal number. Then moving on to a next data type, that is string, or we can list it as str. It's an order sequence characters within double quotes or single quotes, such as hello, we have Sami 2000. Now remember guys, if you write 2000 within a double quote or a single quote, it is considered as a string and not as a number. Then moving on to the next one, we have lists, which is a list type, and it is an ordered sequence of objects. So it can contain a number of objects with different data types, but in an orderly fashion. The next we have is dictionaries or dict. This is an unordered key and which have value pairs. That is the key relating to a value, such as we have an example here, Mikey, which relates to a value, and name, that is here given here, which relates to the curious dude. Next we have tuples. Tuple is nothing but an ordered immutable sequence of objects. What you can see in these example is that list and tuple look exactly like the same, but there are a lot of differences between list and tuples. The major being immutable. Immutable means that we cannot change whatever is present inside a tuple when it's in a tuple format. To change whatever is present inside a tuple, we need to convert that tuple into a list first. So also the difference in syntax, you can see that in list we have square brackets, whereas in tuples we are utilizing parentheses. Next we are using sets, or a set. It is an unordered collection of unique objects. uh, it does not it looks somewhat similar to a dictionary, but it does not contain any ordered or unordered key. Next we have a boolean. It just gives us the example of logical value indicator indicating whether it's true or false. Remember guys, Python is uh, case sensitive language, so remember that we have capital T for true and capital F for false. So this is what we would be having uh, in a Python syntax. This is very important part, since it is a uh, this is a very important part, since Python is a case sensitive language. Now moving on, we have something called as Python numbers. Don't worry guys, the data types that I told you guys, we'll visit each one of them in very detail, and in very detail, and they will have their lectures of their own. So you don't need a very worry about these parts. So next we have what we are going to look at is Python numbers. As we have already briefly discussed, that we have two main number types that we are going to be working with throughout this whole session. These are integers, which are the whole numbers, and then floating point, which are numbers with a decimal. We are going to explore a little bit of basic math of Python, and then we'll discuss on how to create variables and assign them values. Now to continue with this, we are just again going to open our Jupyter notebooks. Remember, in Jupyter notebooks, we'll be continuing from where we left off. Uh, let's start with some basic maths, which is just basically using Python as a calculator. So you can basically use add sign or plus sign for addition, dash or minus sign for subtraction, asterisk or star for multiplication, and to perform division we would use the forward slash. So let's say for example, we want to utilize this Jupyter notebook as a simple calculator for performing mathematical functions. So we just go ahead and write 5 plus 8, and then shift plus enter. Notice that it gives me an output of 13. It just acts as a calculator. I don't have to write a full program just to get this output. I don't have to utilize anything. That's why we said previously that the number of lines required for a code are relatively very less when compared to other programming languages. Similarly, for an example, let's say we want to perform subtraction, 9 dash or 9 minus 7, shift enter. We have the result as 2. 8 multiplied by 7, so 8 asterisk 7, shift plus enter. We run this and we get the answer as 56. 9 backs forward slash 3, 9 divided by 3. Now again we press shift plus enter, we get our result as 3.0. Now remember guys, whenever we are doing division, by default it takes it as a floating number. So let's say if I divide it by 9 divided by 5, it gives me an answer up to one decimal number, that is 1.8. So basically the default point that we are going to take in this would be that it is taking it as a floating point and not as an integer. Now let's talk about some operators that we have very seldom using in our notebooks or in our programming, which is mod or modulus operator, which is nothing but uh, a percentage sign, and it gives back the remainder of the uh, operation that we are performing. So let's say uh, I want to find the remainder when I divide 9 by 4. So when I divide 9 by 4, I get the answer as 2.25. That is basically what is 9 divided by 4. But I want to get what is the remainder when I divide 9 by 4. So I go ahead and do 9, then the percentage sign, and 4. When I run this, I get the answer as 1, which is 4 into 2, 8, and 9 minus 8. I get the remainder as 1. So this is what we do with a modulus operator. Let's take another example, and let's try and find out what would be 50 uh, percentage 5. That is, what would be the remainder if I divide 50 by 5. It would give me an answer as 0, since 50 is totally divisible by 5. Now, the mod operator is basically used to determine whether a number is completely divisible by another number or not. Also, we can utilize this to check whether a number is even or odd. So let's say if, we know like a very basic mathematical fact that if we divide a number by 2 and it gives us a remainder as 0, then it's a even number, and if we divide a number by 2 and it gives us the remainder as 1, then it's an odd number. Now while running this, we will see something. Let's see 50 percentage 2. Now if we run this, we'll have our output as 0. That means 50 is a even number. Now let's see what will I get if I do 21 percentile 2. I'll get the answer as 1. That means it is an odd number. Python also has a power operator, which is represented by double asterisk or double multiply sign. So let's say I want to do 3 to the power 2. So it will look something like this: 3 star star 2 shift plus enter, and I'll get the answer as 9. Or if I want to do, let's say, 5 star star 3, that means 5 to the power 3, I'll get the answer as 125. So you guys have seen, this is like how we can utilize it as a basic mathematical calculator. Also, we can perform some basic operations in Python, order of operations in Python. For example, if I have an equation that says 8 plus 9 into 9 plus 3. Now if I run this equation, I get the answer as 92. But let's say, what if I want to have the result of 8 plus 9 being multiplied by the result of 9 plus 3? What I'm going to do is I just use simple parentheses here: 8 plus 9 multiplied by 9 plus 3, and then shift plus enter. Now I get the result as 204. So basically we can utilize Python as a basic BODMAS calculator as well. So this is what we are going to do with Python. So these are very basic mathematical functions that we are utilizing with Python right now. So this is all for this lecture. In the next lecture, we will see how to assign variables to different numbers and how to perform various different tasks. Make sure to check out the next video, guys. Stay tuned and hit that notification button Like, subscribe, and share. This is the Curious Dude, over and out, and wait for the next lecture.